It is what it is, what it is, YouTube. You know who it is. It's your boy, the Moon. Keeping it real. Let's kick it. All right, man. Let's keep this real down to the hill. All right, so check this out. We got a bunch of things going today. This will be one of 3 videos, so be on the lookout for all 3. I'll be posting 2 videos back to back, and then I will go ahead and do the attack. We have a gig log at an elementary school, and we're going to do it a little differently, but we're going to have a gig log. So I hope you're looking forward to it, because I'm going to capture a little footage. Now, this is what's going down. We're not sure if the weather's going to permit, so we're going to be ready for jump. So if we have to go inside, we'll go inside. So I just don't know yet. So we're going to be outside unless things change. Right now, I went outside. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Ain't no cloud in the sky. Well, there's cloud in the sky, but it ain't doing nothing. So we'll figure it out. All right. So let's get into this, because I got something special. DJ Cool Thing wanted to know a little more about Elvis Presley. Okay. So before I get into the Elvis Presley knowledge, I will be leaving links below down in the description of a couple videos that I would like you to watch. One of them actually is the maid of Elvis Presley. I found it on YouTube. She's the maid of Elvis Presley, the cook of Elvis Presley, and she tells you what happened the day that he died, because she remembers it very well. She was there. She said his last meal was at 1:33 a.m. and his meal consisted of potassium, a fried banana, peanut butter sandwich. So, yeah, I think the mayonnaise involved too. So just be on the lookout for that. I will be posting that below in the comments. So read the comments. I leave a lot of good information in there. I just updated all my stuff. All my equipment's in there, brand new, everything all the way down to what I got now. So check it out. Let's go ahead and get into this. Let's share the screen. All right. He was a handsome man. Okay. So this is Elvis Presley. How did Elvis Presley go from being a truck driver to the king of rock? Well, this basically, The Grudge. I've been finding a lot of good information on the Sound Guys and The Grudge. The Grudge is pretty good too. There's a lot of good places to get your information, but you got to remember that some places are clout. So you got to be very careful on what you're looking at. Okay. So he's an American, cap-held relationship with the kings. He's the U.S. Constitution. Forbes then became the time of King George II. Insists a rebellion and asking for money. Then you have King Kong, who went bananas over Manhattan and kidnapped a woman. Perhaps the weirdest Yankee monarch was Michael Jackson, who cemented himself as both the king of pop and the emperor of unsettling immunity. And of course, there's Elvis, the rockiest king of them all. Elvis had hips and hits to spare. He hound-dogged his broke hotels' hearts, shook up the music and movie industries, and made the world go wherever he sang on stage. In decades since his death, no rock and roll artist has managed to step on, let alone fill, Elvis's blue suede shoes. So it's time and fitting to retrace his steps along the footpath of fame, and here's how he claimed his throne. King's unkingly upbringing. Can you believe living in a house like this? This was his house. This is in Tupelo, Mississippi. He was born in 1935 with a sibling, a twin. His name was Jesse, and he was stillborn, so he didn't make it. But the king was a twin. Could you imagine having two Elvises around? He would have probably carried his brother with him to stardom, though. He'd have probably caught that wiry bug. Elvis grew up in a world withered by the Great Depression. As George Washington University detailed, 40% of the farms in Mississippi were on auction blocks on FDR's inauguration day. In 1933, Elvis's mother Gladys kept intakes at the boy working as a sewing machine operator. His father Vernon, however, struggled to bring home the bacon and bread, and every tasty money metaphor. The Papa Presley earned his bucks driving trucks, but got busted for check fraud when Elvis was 3. From then on, his only steady job was looking for work, which was found sparingly. Now that's today's an age. Being an entrepreneur, or being somebody in the Great Depression and everything else. I didn't get a chance to first-handedly be a part of the Great Depression because I'm not that old, but being a child of the 70s and being poor, I kind of feel it needs to be said, because when I grew up and I was raised in North Portland, I lived kind of like in the downbeaten parts of the city. Pretty much lived in if you ever do research, North Portland and Northeast Portland is pretty much dominated by ethnicity. So there was a lot of ethnicity where I was born. Believe it or not, and I'll get back into this, but believe it or not, when I went to high school, I was a minority in my high school. So that I explained everything. Okay, so Papa Presley driving trucks. Now, when Presley was almost transit lifestyle, hoping between homes, and they tried to weather the financial drought. In 1948, they moved into public housing in Memphis, Tennessee. So there's where he moved to Memphis. Okay, the money remained tight, so did the family's bond. Elvis Presley returned to flavor by juggling jobs to school as a teenager to help keep his household afloat. He really loved his parents. He moved his parents into the mansion later on without a song. In 1971, Elvis accepted an award of an all-out awesomeness during his speech. The king quoted a song to show how deeply music defined him. I learned very early in life that without a song, the day would never end. Without a song, a man ain't got a friend. Without a song, the road would never bend. Without a song, I'll keep on singing a song. He wasn't lying. Elvis began belting out tunes as a boy and never stopped. Long before he danced to Jailhouse Rock, Elvis was rocked by the house of worship. Church songs resonated with him as blues. I believe his mother was Pentecostal. So if you're ever familiar with the Pentecostal movement, the Pentecostals believed a lot of different things. You can look it up. I'm not going to get preachy with this because there's nothing wrong with religion. There's nothing wrong with God. There's nothing wrong with it at all. So anyways, he was that. I think that's what because it doesn't say anything about his father being a drunk, just having problems finding work. So I don't know if this doesn't explain it, but and it doesn't even mention that. So let's get into this. It says, at 10 years old, he took fifth place in Mississippi talent competition. In fairness of Elvis, the talent show was aired over the radio. Wow. At 10 years old, he's on the radio. Got a medium immunity to hip generators had been televised. He surely would have won. So if this would have been televised, he would have won first place because his hips kept on moving from then. In 1946, Elvis got his first guitar. He actually wanted a bike or a rifle in some versions of the story. But given the family's finances, it was probably like asking Fort Knox on wheels. Rather than pouting the pelty baby, Elvis embraced his gift and gained a repertoire of playing it. During his down and frequented the black neighborhoods of Memphis, which, according to Rolling Stones, boosted blues generated by B.B. King, whether making him a marvelous music. Elvis was seldom without a song. So this is his upbringing. I lived in Memphis for a couple of years, and Memphis is very, very, it's dominated. It depends on where you live. Now, I've actually worked for a barbecue company called Neely's. If you're ever in Memphis and you want to go to a good barbecue, go look up Interstate Barbecue. It's the best. That, and then you have the ribs from what was it? And there's a rib joint there too to go check out. But Jim Neely brought back, after he came back from the war, he brought back barbecue. So check out Interstate Barbecue if you're ever in Memphis. Check it out. Okay, so Elvis, you got him a guitar. So let's get down here. And then the belated birthday present. And here he is singing My Happiness, his first recording. Now, Elvis did this recording for his mother. He loved his mother, man. He loved his family. He was family oriented. In 1953, Elvis was the first guy trying to get. He graduated high school that year and became a machinist. I'm sorry. That summer, he discovered Sun Records. Elvis showed up not in search of SPEAKER, but recorded a demo on the song My Happiness as a belated birthday present for his mama. He voiced interest in singing professionally, but the man in charge wasn't it. So Elvis chorded a couple tunes and left the building, basically singing a song. Months passed, and Elvis' entertainment illusions of our aggressiveness, he took an electrician's course and began driving truck with Crown Electric. Dramatically, he was in the right ballpark, but playing the wrong game. Elvis had potentially the electrify crowds and wear a music crown, but he wanted to be the king of the road. He became king of the road and everything else. Elvis fancied himself as a trucker, and he styled his hair with a pompadour, like the truckers of his day, built in 1954. He shifted gears. Now, this doesn't say anything about it, but I'm going to go right here and stop. Because right here, when he started driving truck, He was driving truck. He decides, because he has the bluey country background, he decides to go to Graceland. Not Graceland, but he decides to take his little trip down to a place. Now, it doesn't say this here, but this is his history. He decides to go to the Grand Ole Opry. They have where they come in like Showtime at the Apollo. They have the same thing. They have like they'll have like well, they'll bring people in that aren't like, they have amateur hour basically. So he came in on an amateur hour, and I don't know exactly who told him this, but he came in and did a song and basically got shot down. They told him to go back to Memphis and keep driving truck. That's basically what they told him. So on the countryside of Elvis, he didn't make it towards launching his career there. He came back to Memphis and continued to drive truck. So that's in his history. So I found that information off of the Air America, as I think it's called Air America. So anyway, so at the time, Sun Records owner Sam Phillip, here's where it takes a shift. Okay, so Sam Phillip dreamed of joining black and white singer styles in music matrimony. Now, this is 1954. Okay, so segregation was still in play here at this time. So what ends up happening is this gentleman, Sam, he really saw that he wanted to get the blacks and the white, the black and the white artists together, because he couldn't do it, because back then it was still segregated. But this man had a dream that if it, and like other people had dreams. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he had a dream that this would happen. You see, not just the king had this idea, but other people had this idea too. And Sam Phillips is white. So you're looking at a revolutionary here. This is a revolutionary. This is somebody that believes and dreams that he could get two people together, because at the time that wasn't happening. This time right here was very, very segregated system, and it sucked. I'm glad I'm not in part of that, because I think segregation is wrong. We shouldn't be segregated, and we're still doing that today. I'm sorry to tell you that, but the segregation's still happening, unfortunately. It's not as bad as it was. It's still happening, and that we need to change that. With all this stuff going on, that's what it is. They believe, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that, because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm a DJ, so let's get into the music. I'm sorry I got to start down that road. But anyway, so segregation was happening at this time. So, and then, but the limit pushback from white America, as was the harbinger of harmony, had to be white. So this is the pushback. This is where he wanted to get. He wanted to get that idea, but he found it. He found it in one person. Now check it out. When Elvis dropped by in 1954 to record another demo, Philip knew he struck that person. He didn't, as it says, struck gold, but he knew that it was the person to do what he wanted. The sun finally rises. Heartbreak to tell. The transition from trucking to the King of Rock wasn't exactly easy. But in 1954, Elvis was just a timid and 19 years old. Sam Records considered Elvis one of the most introverted people he had ever come up into the studio. Excuse me. During the recording session, the Unrise Star sought constant research and struggling with his musical footing. Even when Elvis got out on his own way, he continued hitting songs. Numerous radio stations rejected him for radical grounds. Some suspected Elvis was a black man singing country and blacklisted him. Others blew him off as a white bluesman. He also hit or missed among listeners. Young music fans flocked to him, flogging frowns and brows uncertainty, outright unease. On the demographic, the particular treated Elvis like era opium. Women, the fairer sex, found him sexy and went wild during his live performances with his velvet voice, hypnotic hips, and his luscious lips. Elvis was a one-man boy band, and that boy did help record sales. His soaring popularity with female fans helped land him the record deal with RCA. He was a chick magnet, basically. Excuse me. So, basically, his little hypnotic hips. Okay. And over the next several years, he landed 15 different top 10 singles. In the 1970s, Elvis starred in over 30 movies and hundreds of millions of records. Tasting Elvis. This picture right here, I'm going to use this picture as an example. This woman did not want to do that. And let's get into why. She did not like his style or anything. As Elvis assessed his fame, something iconic happened under everyone's nose. The tongue-kissed touch with a woman. Not just any woman, a mysterious mouthmate who would leave people pondering her identity for decades. Photographer Alfred Witherspoon captured the famous facial exchange in 1956, but the image did not capture any attention until after Elvis passed away 21 years later. Known simply as The Kiss, the image was drawn compassionately in timeless VJ Day in the Times Square, which features a sailor kissing a woman and retrospects, an unfortunate association since the sailor in question apparently snatched a random nurse and kissed her. And unfortunately, the facts of Elvis kissing and accusing unromantic. The woman that tasted the King's taste buds in 1956 was Barbara Gray, then named Barbara Santoff. According to Gray, she drunkenly requested a one-day date with Elvis on a dare. She knew almost nothing about him except that he was performing in her town in Charleston, South Carolina. That's where that picture took place. And that he did. Black-sounding music. She didn't even enjoy his kind of music and found the King insecure. Gray finally began to warm to him and invited her to the concert. Powered her like a hound dog. Pounded her like a hound dog and surveyed her. Called her fat butt. Even so, she refused to kiss him. Elvis literally had to come chase her and corner her before his concert to get fat butt to give in. That's pretty wrong. Okay. So in 1957, there's Graceland. 1957, Elvis was stepping to stardom. But amid the maelstrom of concerts and kisses, he never forgot his family. His parents meant the world to him, and now it was time to give them the moon. Elvis had already purchased his folks a home, but with everything they had given him, he thought they deserved another. So he produced a colonial mansion near Memphis called Graceland. He would reside there with his parents and his grandmother, Minnie Mo Dodger Presley, who had been a constant preserver of his life. Over the years, Graceland became increasingly lavish, per the telegram. Elvis installed a potential den and waterfall in the trophy room and a war of keepsakes, an extravagant add-on to the Graceland. Most memorable additions was a chimp named Scooter, that drunk bourbon, wore a chauffeur's uniform and regularly accompanied Elvis on the road. Scooter also developed a taste looking up women's skirts, pinching their butts and climbing on them. When a lavish chimp finally got through routing, he never returned to Graceland. He would have had to return to Graceland. Now stop right there. Michael Jackson had a chimp too. I will get into we'll do Michael Jackson next week. You'll see the similarities of their life. We'll do Michael Jackson next week. So be on the lookout for MJ, because Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley are two like almost the same. And we'll get into that next week. Because Michael Jackson is just like, oh my God. His whole career is just spanned kind of like this. 5 years after Elvis's death, Priscilla Presley turned Graceland into a tourist attraction. It became the second most visited house in the nation. In 2017, that Priscilla had opened a 450-room hotel across the street from her former home. Graceland had become a hunk of beloved history, a place where fans who love Elvis from afar can come close to him. He got enlisted. Soon after acquiring Graceland, Elvis was drafted into the Army because back then, you didn't have a choice. You either... So, back when World War II happened, a funny thing occurred. The government decided to invent something that they didn't have. We give you the Social Security number, which basically is your number that they give you at birth. After you're born, you have to acquire a Social Security number. And this is why you acquire that number. This number is not only good for everything, it's good for them because they know who you are. It's to track males. It was made for males only to get them so they make them enlist. Because at the time, people were draft dodging and everything else. Well, they came up with the Social Security. Now, a lot of people were drafting to Canada. Elvis didn't draft dodge. So I just want to let you know that's a little part of our history, and that's where Social Security number came in. The Social Security number is used for a lot of things, but this is one of them. Is to give you a number. And that's why you have to register at 18, I think it's between 18 and 24, you have to be registered in Selective Service. If you do not get registered as a Selective Service, they can come and get you and throw you in jail for draft dodging, pretty much is what they call it. So at the time, if you didn't, they would probably did it. Right now, they don't necessarily do it. But it's very wise that as an 18-year-old kid, you need to file. Trust me, you need to just do it. That's your American rights not to go, but it's your American right to do it, kind of thing. So the undrafted Elvis was faint and complained to save the king's sable mane, his hair. The fans and intensified Elvis's this hair that state legislators tried to invert on their behalf. The aim was simple: the exempt Elvis from getting a buzz cut. Essentially, the army balked, and some Elvis basically got a haircut, but it didn't take away his looks. Basically, I believe he got a. He didn't have a pompadour at the time after this, but basically he got his haircut a little bit, not too much. His mother died when he was 1958 is when his mother died. He had to take a little time to grieve before shoving off in the tank battalion at Frederick, Germany, where he met his 14-year-old Priscilla Farley at a party. Age provided a minor concern for the 20-year-old Elvis, who became instantly smitten. The pair bonded over the next 6 months. Priscilla betrayed the relationship of somewhat restraint. The couple engaged in noodle camaraderie, but Elvis' nakedness more emotion than physical. He mourned his mother's death, eliminated loneliness, and voiced fears that his fans had forgotten him. The king of rock and roll. This is his picture in his movie. I think it's one of his movies. It's GI Blues is what it's called. And basically, after seeking Elvis, he got his portfolio. Okay, so check this out. This is something that is just amazing. Polo was on a comeback, and they needed somebody to voice the opinion that people needed to get vaccinated. So Elvis did this vaccination on camera, and when he did, it was from he jumped from 2% of the people of the nation getting vaccinated to 85% of the nation getting vaccinated. You see why it's very important that people like I won't get into it, but people that have this like Elvis, this star-like atmosphere, getting something, and then all of a sudden, look what's happening. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Nobody wants to get their stuff done because there's a lot of drawbacks. But the more and more people do it, they're going to have to redo it, and they're going to have to redo it. But when they redo it, it's going to get better and better and better, and the side effects aren't going to be so bad. The influenza was the same way. So that's pretty much what's going on here. And Hollywood latched onto him like a leech's chimp. In 1950 to 1969, Elvis made about 3 movies a year. Naturally, the unearthly work rate resulted in some somatic stinkers, and uncomfortably talented creators like Tickle Me and Kissing Cousins flopped fiercely. But Elvis also gained acclaim for the features such as GI Blues, Blue Hawaii, and other films that didn't include Kissing Lovin'. Cousin Lovin'. It was a mixed bag, to say the least. Musically, the lackluster time of Elvis had what little time he did make songs largely got devoted to soundtracks. Became particularly problematic toward the later of the 60s. As the King movie magic fizzled, Elvis became a walking Warhol painting, a heaping helping of Cankermat, the perspective. The King puts on his best in 1969 press conference. I want to change the type of script I've been doing instead of the whole life change. The unerect kingdom. There's him with Priscilla. So in 1960s, Elvis slowly committed by conflict by Hollywood, but wasn't the King's sole concern. During his period, he depended on a relationship With the arm in arm and the young Priscilla Presley Ballou in 1963, she joined Elvis at Graceland. Life as a rock star was often rocky. Elvis lorded over Priscilla's, dictating what she wore and how she walked. He forbade her from working on and even controlled her hair color. Priscilla would later be blamed so much to porn on Hollywood, basically this on Hollywood, that Elvis' ideas of look came mostly from style and makeup artists as well as film be watched. Despite being a mercy to fashion tyrant, she married Elvis in 1967. Marital bliss gave way to blistering rage as Elvis increasingly indulged the darker urges. When Priscilla strayed outside her marriage, Elvis was notoriously unfaithful, allegedly exact revenge by himself and her. Priscilla recalls her husband's harrowing habits of shooting the television screen whenever a broadcaster upset him. Just how many TVs Elvis murdered is unclear, but the numerous greater than zero immense. He killed televisions. Lisa Marie upended the king, no longer desired the queen romantically. He got hooked on pills and used touring as an escape from home life. Elvis inverted increasingly established culture icon. His marriage collapsed, accumulating in a divorce the year I was born, 1973. Elvis reclaims his crown. Before the divorce, in fact, a year after marrying Priscilla, Elvis had a musical revival. A marathon of movie roles had stunned his musically recessed demands. To put an epic television performance, popularly known as the '68 Comeback Special, a fortunate title, Elvis, the NBC-sponsored concert, showcased the king at his best. The Elvis took stage with the vengeance dressed in black leather and spotting trademark snarl. The king sang fearlessly passionate and powerful. The special proved that the 33-year-old singer had swagger despite years of watered-down Hollywood, and only took him 60 minutes to do it. And guess what? He used this microphone. Ha ha! So this microphone is what he used to sing with. Doesn't say that in here, but he did. He used it. For inspiring music and messages, Elvis paid homage to his musical roots, playing rockabilly, blues, gospel, and as an avid supporter of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy, both of whom had been assassinated that year, he also used his concert to promote racial togetherness. It was more than a show. It was a canvas for Elvis to point to masterful self-portrait. You see, like I said, it was put into him because this Scott Phillips, his person that found him, wanted to get the equality together. He wanted to get black and white together. Guess what? Elvis saw that too. Elvis had people working for him he treated like gold. I left a link below. I'm gonna leave a link below about his maid, his cook. His cook was a black woman, and she explains everything about this. And forgive me how I said it that way. I'm not trying to be not to sound racial, but she was a black woman cooking. So and a lot of people don't know history. If you get into it, a lot of people their prominence for working for rich white people, which at the time they were they they certain people they didn't use it as a racial thing. They used it because they wanted to help people, and Elvis was one of those people that liked to help people. So the series of global emerged for his performance up to that. The Beatles and the Rolling Stones had overtaken the airways, but Elvis swiftly supposed with singles like Suspicious Minds, which ousted Beatles come together from the top spot in the U.S. The king hasn't lost his crown. He had simply let other singers borrow it. Ha ha. But he got his crown back. What happened in Vegas? The 68 comeback special rejuvenated Elvis's career. Once again, white hot Elvis struck a deal with the Performance International Hotel in Las Vegas, which later became the Westgate Las Vegas Report. 1969, the showcase sold out for 837 straight nights over a period of 7 years. Sadly, the king renewed rise was also his downfall. The good get back up here. Okay, so the good times, Elvis had a whole life of pills and thrills, ate abominably. As Elvis became increasingly unhealthy, he made repeated attempts to crash, dieting, crashed by burn. One time, hunk of burning love, burned the candle at both ends, and it was only a matter of time before the flame went out. Perhaps Elvis simply believed it was time to go, according to the roof. Elvis was suspicious he had passed away in his early 40s at the same age as his mom, whether he saw the future or simply allowed it. June 1977, he gave his last performance. Can't help falling in love with his final song. April 16th, the American star had fallen in love with death, what died. His heart scrambled through years of stress and drug use. Although Elvis handled the extinguishing fans, he never stopped seeing the light. Stop right there. Okay, let's get out of here because I have some little bit of knowledge about this. Okay, when he passed away, he was eating bananas, sandwiches, and peanut butter. He ate potassium, a lot of potassium. Okay, if you're not familiar with your digestive tract, okay, the king was impacted with doo-doo. And the other thing says, basically, the maid says he ate a sandwich at 1:33 a.m. the day of his death. So he did eat something. He ate a banana and peanut butter sandwich. He liked them fried. So that's another thing on top of him. So his unhealthy eating played a big part. On top of the drugs he was taking, he was addicted to pain pills. He had a doctor on hand to give him pain pills anytime he wanted. So he had a doctor on hand, he had a dentist on hand, and everything else. So he basically, at veterans' call, they would come to him if he needed help. He wouldn't go to them, and they would come to him. He had a full staff when he passed away. Everybody was there. He was surrounded by love when he passed away. A lot of people say, well, it's not true. It's true. His fiance was in the other room when he passed away. Yes, he was going to get married again. He had dreams to get married again. Priscilla wasn't it. He was going to get married again. The day that he passed away was August 16th in 1977. He passed away at 1:30 p.m. But what happened was he got up out of the bed to go to the bathroom because he had to take a doo-doo. And unfortunately, he couldn't go. They found him on the floor unconscious. They rushed him to the hospital, to the Baptist hospital in Memphis. If you're familiar with Memphis, the Baptist hospital is one of the biggest hospitals there is. Still there, the same hospital he got rushed to. They couldn't do nothing. It was too late. He passed away. And I'm sure his heart could have gave in too, but that's probably part of it. But when you're impacted, you can't go. You're literally drowning in doo-doo. So that's basically what happened. So, and they wanted to make it limelight, but in all actuality, Elvis passed away of doo-doo. So, yeah, a little bit of X-Lax would have helped him a lot. Drinking AA coffee would have helped him too, probably. All right, so DJ Cool Thing, I hope you like this. I know this video was long, but this is the king, man. He deserves his crown. So anyways, I'm not going to keep y'all. So just remember one thing that I want to leave you with. Keep it real. Peace.